First day of spring. Yeah. All weather nonsense aside, let's see how many pictures of this wacky world of MultimediaJay inside of TV screens, inside of YouTube videos I can get for the first couple of videos in this series. Should be pretty interesting, to say the very least. Alright, let's respond to some of these comments that I've been receiving about AMD versus Intel, which is, of course, last time I did one of these, it was a response to AMD versus Intel, namely the question of, is AMD really worth it? One of the things I want to say is, all this talk about, oh, my budget build uses an i5, so you can build an i5 in a budget system. Yeah, well, it depends on what you mean by budget. The reason why I said what I said about that video I mentioned earlier, where $800 was a budget PC, which, by the way, $800 is not a budget gaming rig. There's some AMD super combos out there that could be used for gaming PCs that would cost significantly less. But let's actually take a look at some of the hard numbers with the 8350 versus all the Core i5s. All sale prices aside, here is the AMD 8350 on Newegg, which is currently going for about $180. So, remember that number. $179.99. Focus. So roughly around the $180 mark for a $180 mark for an 8350. Here's all the Core i5s. Intel Core i5 4430 Haswell, $184. Core i5 4460 Haswell, $189. So already the Intel chips are blowing it in terms of keeping up with the 8350. Now, where are they on the hierarchy? Let's go to the Nova Bench charts. 8350. The 8350 8-core scores 693 versus, let's do 4430 for the other one. The 8350 scores 693 versus 4430. The Core, oh, there it is, 4430 scoring 445. So you're paying more for a lower benchmark with that stuff. Let's go over to multi-core. Let's see. Clickety click click over to the browser for Geekbench. 64-bit multi-core. Find 8350. There it is. The AMD FX 8350. Come on. Focus. 12,171. 12 grand. Versus, let's see if we can at least beat it there. Oh, no, it can't. Core i5, 4430, 9 grand. So you're paying more for less. Alright, well, at least according to these benchmarks. And sometimes I consider benchmarks to be a little too, well, synthetic compared to real-world usage. But in this case, the cheapest i5 doesn't score as well on either a simplistic benchmark like Nova Bench or a more complicated or more fleshed-out benchmark like Geekbench. So, again, how is Core i5 budget? Quite frankly, this cheapest Core i5 right now is practically a ripoff with those kinds of numbers. Oh, and by the way, $184.99 is a sale price. It would normally cost $189.99. The same as the 4460 that comes right after it. Oh, well, it seems like, no, what, are these all kind of stuck there? Let's take a look. Well, wait a minute. 4340, 40, let's try the 4460, since these all seem to be stuck at the $190 mark. Although they still cost more than the AMD. So 8358 core, 693 versus, what do we want to use again? Versus 4460. So 693 versus 4460. Nope, still not even close. 464. Geekbench. Let's do 8350. The 8350, 12 grand. Versus 4460, 10 grand. So what are you paying more for? This is what, and it's really too bad. It really says a lot about how much processors have stagnated, that the 8350 is still like some kind of flagship AMD chip. This thing is how old now? How old is the architecture in this thing, and it's still a decent bang-for-buck chip? Then again, the 1090Ti I'm using is still a decent bang-for-buck chip, although it doesn't score as high as an 8350. Oh, man. So that's what I mean when I say, you know, AMD should be like budget bang-for-buck type stuff. Yeah, just toss an AMD in there and call it a day. So, Something to be concerned about, though, with anytime you see cheap Intels, and here's the thing, I've been hearing about, oh, well, Intel's trying to compete with AMD on price. Going all the way back to about 10 years ago or so, there was an Intel fanboy running a computer shop around here that has since gone out of business, who refused to acknowledge that AMD ever made any decent chips. So, oh, yeah, AMD sucks, Intel's awesome, Newegg sucks too, it's all gray market parts, and wow, I'm sure Newegg would appreciate that with their $3 billion in sales. They're a shady gray market dealer, who would have thought? Yeah, right. Anyways. So, yeah, now I've been hearing about, oh, well, Intel is competing with AMD on price. I've been hearing that for years. But here's something to consider. If Intel really wants to create bang-for-buck chips or compete with AMD on price, how about we see some cheaper Core i7s? Because that seems to be the trend. I gotta put together a spreadsheet of current Newegg prices for processors versus their 64-bit multi-core performance on Geekbench to see where the bang for buck truly is. I may even do a copy-paste job of some sort in order to get that working correctly. But yeah, you know, right, bang for buck, bang for buck, bang for buck, whatever. But something to consider. When you see Intel chips that are cheap, or it seems like Intel's trying to be close to AMD on price, ask yourself this question. Are they doing this because they want to have competitive pricing, or are they doing this because they actually have competition at those performance brackets? AMD kind of stops after the Core i5s. So, if you want a nice preview of what a monopolistic Intel's going to be like, keep an eye on those i7 prices, and not just the rich kid chips at the top. Try the entry-level i7s. Oh, man. Let's talk about motherboards before we call it a quick video here. So here's the Asus Sabertooth, what's available, basically. So it's nice that at some levels there is motherboard parity in pricing. So here is the first Intel and the first AMD motherboard for an Asus Sabertooth. Now the Intel one is cheaper only because it's on sale. Otherwise it would cost the same as the AMD board. But let's continue going up the price charts here. So $179, so $180 motherboards. Of course, the big AMD combo I'm constantly hearing about is 8350 Sabertooth, 8350 Sabertooth, 8350 Sabertooth. So here's the next one up. This is an Intel board, $199. Another Intel board, $239. Yet another Intel board, $299. Yet another Intel board, $329. So yeah, That's what I meant by processors. Sometimes these companies have a little bit of fun because they know that people who want to build Intel systems have a little bit of money they wouldn't mind parting with, so you see the prices go up on the motherboards too. I imagine newer chipsets and better features are probably what makes these, these more expensive motherboards where they get their price from and stuff like that. But it's nice that there's at least one level where the Intel and AMD motherboards are the same and you get to go by the price, which based on these prices I've seen with this Core i5 isn't very interesting. So, but then again, the 8350 is not very interesting either. It's only a very small marginal improvement in performance over my current 1090T. The big reason, if I built a new system right now, probably the best thing that would come of it is I would have a newer motherboard with faster features like faster SATA speeds and faster PCI Express, maybe. But that's just the thing. Computer desktop hardware just isn't interesting right now. Nothing really excites me, so I don't really feel like spending money on something that's not all that exciting. I mean, why would I want to put myself out hundreds of dollars, at the very least, to end up a little bit ahead of where I am right now? And not just performance either. I'm also talking like power efficiency as well, since even though this thing's got a TDP of 125 watts, it's known for sucking significantly more, especially if you overclock. So that's what I mean by AMD being bang for buck. It's how they're staying around. And they don't really have much choice because Intel keeps kicking their ass. But at the very least, it's good that those of us without a lot of money can still get somewhat decent performance without breaking the bank. Just some stuff to think about. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.